Today, as we continue to gear up for ISTE 2019, we'll take a look back with Michael Cohen. Last year, he was a keynote speaker at ISTE, and during this school year, I sat down with him and had him talk about his new book, Learning by Design, and how he designs the classroom for better learning. So stay tuned this week and next week for lots of learning and excitement for all of you who are either at ISTE, traveling there, or most of us who are not at ISTE, including Friday's show with Peggy George about the new way to participate in ISTE even when you're not there. So here we go, episode 517, How to Design the Classroom for Better Learning. Erkund is today's sponsor. Stay tuned at the end of the show to learn about Erkund's plagiarism prevention abilities and how you can have a free trial for the end of this school year. Simply use the code COOLCAT to get a whole month free of Erkund.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Today, we're talking with Michael Cohen, also known as the Tech Rabbi, who lives in LA, and he has a new book, Educated by Design. So, Michael, when people design classroom spaces, do you actually think that they really consider the types of lessons they'll do in those spaces?
So I think that is the big challenge. There's so many really incredible physical spaces that I've been able to experience and see and visit. But it really has to start with the way that we think about space, the way that we think about experiences, and how we build the experiences to the point where we need more versatility of the space. We need more versatility of our resources. I think usually it starts with, let's create a really expensive, awesome maker space or innovation lab, and then we'll discover ways in which we can learn in those spaces. And that second way does have some really great potential, but it tends to make it a slower struggle for students to really put out meaningful work.
So give me an example of how you have struggled with this designing space and some conclusions you've come to and maybe some designs you've created.
So I taught at the K-8 level for a number of years, and then I segued into high school. And that was a really confusing moment, to be a little transparent for me, because, we create these space, we create these lessons, a lot of collaboration in as far as students publishing content and sharing that content with other students and being able to use digital, displays to showcase their work. And everyone at that grade levels of, that K-8, they're just okay with it. They don't know anything else. The high school students are questioning everything. Why are we doing this? I want, AP courses, honor courses. I want to get into a good university. Like, why are we in this space? What is happening here? And what I had to do is I really had to figure out how to design learning experiences for these high school students where they start to pick up on EQ, emotional intelligence, and soft skills, and show them how those are part and parcel of the future of work, of what the workspace looks like. And then, to give them very concrete examples to show them how they have to build these strong communication skills, these brainstorming skills, these process-oriented skills, so that they can just be more valuable once they graduate from college.
So, Michael, I remember many years ago, one of my early blog posts was about the learning experiences on a Disney cruise, because that's one of the few places where I actually think they do design a learning experiences. There were all different kinds of places. You could sit on the ground, you could sit. It was just so well designed. What have you done with your spaces to facilitate this versatile environment where you have a lot of options for learning?
The Disney example is really great because I stumbled upon this actual Disney professional development program years ago. They have created this really incredible way of capturing and engaging and sparking curiosity and wonder, obviously at their theme parks, but in a corporate space. And I took a little bit of inspiration from them because I think that one of the things that the students appreciate, this idea of wonder for a 14 to 17-year-old, it doesn't exist. It takes a little bit. It doesn't happen on the first, few lessons. But for me to look at the spaces and the opportunities and the challenges that I'm providing for them in a way that they're sort of struggling and a little bit uncomfortable because not everything is handed to them, that is what I think can result in some pretty spectacular learning.
So when you design, are you talking lesson design? Are you talking room design? You're talking both?
I'm talking everything. In my background before getting into education, I was a design director in the nonprofit sector. So it was visual design, it was organizational and marketing design. How do we create events? How do we create experiences that will be memorable, that'll have people coming back? And I segued a lot of those skills into my classroom practice and later, as an administrator. It's important for educators to understand that they are designers and they might not have the vernacular, they might not have the vocabulary set to understand how closely a lot of the work that they do in the classroom is related to other professional fields. Because I think if they knew that, they would have a whole new set of resources to use and to gain inspiration from. Because yes, designing a space is important, but you have to design purpose in the space. And that really comes with an engaging lesson that you hope that will connect to all the students, which I know is never going to happen, but you want to try to connect it to as many students as possible and finding that relevancy and that personalization and how can we give students opportunity to have choice. All of that is design process.
So, Michael, walk me through a recent lesson and the student walks in. What kind of space do they sit in? What do they see? What do they do? Help us understand this experience and how it's different in your classroom.
My classroom is an innovation lab. I'm very spoiled, but I spent a lot of time helping the school create this space. It begins in a brainstorming classroom, has a giant retractable wall that can break the space up into a second stage when they're ready. But they begin with the brainstorming process. And one of the things that I have discovered is, for me, I know who inspires me. I know where to find these people, but I never really thought about, what if you don't know where to find that inspiration that's going to help you actually grow as a person and a professional? So I created a lesson called The Power of Influence. And it begins a few weeks sort of exploration in the design thinking process and how to really build empathy. But it starts with this power of influence. I have a Venn diagram on the whiteboard wall, and it has 4 intersecting circles. And I tell them to write down 5 people on Post-it notes that inspire or influence them. I give them no context whatsoever. If this person comes to mind as an influencer or as someone that inspires you, put that person down. And they do. And then I put onto each of the circles a label. So there's the feel, the act, the think, and the say. And now they're a little bit caught off guard because they realize that as high school students, most of the people that they chose were either entertainers or sports players. Very few of them chose people that actually can help them become better human beings. But at least I can say many of them chose their parents, which was inspiring because I don't think I would have chosen my parents in high school. And I love my parents to death. I dedicated my book to them. So then they realize they're missing something and they have to find that. And we introduce the design thinking process to them. So some students are just trying to build comfort in problem solving that's not a linear scripted experience, but other students actually have a chance to go about trying to solve problems. I start small. World hunger is not an option for the first 16 weeks of an entrepreneurship course. So they look at ways in which they can solve problems at their school level, improve things. It doesn't always have to be a problem, but a challenge, something that they'd like to see come out in a better fashion. And then I try to show them through bringing in guests, either face-to-face or digitally, or showing them articles from different resources that are in the business and in the industry sectors, how important communication is, how important writing is, how important it is to script and persuade someone. We talk about persuasive writing, but how does that segue into something even more substantial, which is a persuasive presentation? So that they go through these experiences that are very open-ended, but it has to start where everyone is together. And it really starts with that. How do we find people that are the right people to influence us, to grow as people and professionals? But then also, how do we embark on about in this design thinking process, it starts with an empathetic lens of understanding who people are, what their struggles are, what their interests. I mean, empathy is this all-encompassing thing. It's not just what's wrong with the person. And that's been a big piece of this first semester. The second semester is now about getting very concrete in implementation. But right now, it's just been a semester of exploration. And I think it's important because their other classes all have these rigorous, high expectations of academic excellence. And in my class, not to say I don't have that, but it's a chance for them to really explore who they are and what they can figure out is a worthy contribution to the world.
Wow. And I think every child needs a reason to want to come to school, and they need to know they matter, and they need to know that they're important and that they can make a difference. So we could just talk all day, Michael, but the book is Educated by Design. He does have 10 principles in the book. We've just barely scratched the surface. And this whole experience piece, I think, is so important. It's not just lesson planning. It's learning experience planning. I think that's an important thing for us all to remember. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much.
Today's sponsor is Erkend. Erkend is great as a plagiarism prevention tool and connects with most common learning management systems like Google Classroom, Moodle, or Canvas, or as a standalone web tool or by email. Students just turn in work, then the teacher has a paper analyzed by Erkend. The Erkend system is highly accurate, cost-effective, and even better, doesn't sell licenses to students or others. Just teachers can use the power of Erkend. So if you use another text similarity detection tool, or if you haven't used one yet, now is the time to start your free trial at coolcatteacher.com/detect or coolcatteacher.com/Erkend. That's spelled URKUND. And learn more about Erkend today. And remember, use the code COOLCAT to get a whole month free.
Thank you for listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. You can download the show notes and see the archive at coolcatteacher.com/podcast. Never stop learning.